Joining me now is Mollie Hemingway, Fox News contributor and editor-in-chief of The Federalist, and Tomi Lahren, host of Tomi Lahren is Fearless on Outkick.com. All right, Mollie, Biden ran on lifting the country, but isn't that the opposite of what he's doing here?
Yeah, he wants to lean into this sort of hate-filled message, but I wonder if that's not a great idea for him, in part because of how he has run his presidency. It's not just that there are foreign policy problems and economic problems and no border and rampant crime. It's also that he himself is doing a lot to attack the Republic. He's trying to imprison his top political opponent. Other Democrats are working to steal that family business of Donald Trump. They're working to, on trumped-up charges. They've censored tens of millions of Americans. And so when Americans think about what's dark and not healthy and not a good look for America, they probably are thinking more about these Democrat policies towards censorship and violation of people's speech rights, attempts to imprison political opponents, and then they're not happy with the other policies as well.
And, Tomi, the truth is that Joe Biden has lost in the latest polls almost 24 points among black voters. He is behind in terms of Hispanic voters, Trump beating him there as well. Trump beating him with the youth vote. And that is with Biden having the benefit of abortion and climate change. I mean, Joe Biden doesn't have a story to tell about himself, does he?
He certainly doesn't. A few months back, the administration tried the whole Bidenomics approach. They tried that catchphrase. For those that have watched Mean Girls, they tried to make fetch happen, and fetch did not happen. So they decided to bury Bidenomics along with the rest of the country and our economic prosperity. So now they have to go back to their old trick, which is bringing up Charlottesville, bringing up January 6th, bringing up Donald Trump. He's bringing back the Dark Brandon speech with the red lights behind him, because that really is all that works, is to talk about mega Republicans. But this is a man also who ran on being the unifier in chief in his inauguration, talked about unifying the country. But once again, all he's doing is vilifying half of the country, calling us mega Republicans in a derogatory way, saying that we are deplorable, we are insurrectionists, we are racist, we are xenophobic, taking a page out of the Hillary Clinton playbook that didn't work for her either. That's all that he has. And I love that line about him running against himself and losing. So that's why they're pivoting now back to the whole Dark Brandon approach, making the rest of the country feel like they're surrounded by a bunch of racists, because that's all that they have. You mentioned, Judge, they have the abortion issue, they have climate change, they have racism, but that's it. When you've got an open border and you've got a plummeting economy and a commander-in-chief who, quite frankly, doesn't know where he's at most of the time, this is all you have to go with.
All right. And Mollie, I want to go back to what Jackie said a few moments ago. Some of the younger aides on Biden's reelection campaign have been grimly joking. The campaign is getting ready to go full-on Hitler. Mollie, is this surprising?
No, it is something we've seen from President Biden since he first ran for office in 2020. He really does lean into this hate-filled rhetoric where he attacks half the country, where he talks in such dark terms about the people that he purports to lead. But again, it doesn't work, in part because the Democrat Party is the one that is right now associated with limits on people's speech, expression, where they are going after, they're literally trying to imprison a very popular political opponent and remove him from the ballot. So if you want comparisons to dictators or authoritarians, you see it all with the Biden administration. And you don't just have it where he's making this claim against someone. You also have the experience of what the Trump administration was like, where someone was in charge of the Department of Justice and didn't use it to go after his political enemies and didn't use it to take Joe Biden off the ballot or other Democrats off the ballot. And so when you see that side-by-side comparison, and one is really working to restrict speech, expression, and free elections, it doesn't work to have some of this outlandish rhetoric that is being used by the Biden administration.
And, Tomi, finally, I want you to take a listen to Nancy Pelosi, and then I want your response.
The president has said we have more work to be done, and let's have a debate on who's there for the American people. I am very excited about what Biden has done. We were a part of that. But more importantly, what he will do.
You think American people are feeling that, Tomi?
No, there's certainly not. But I'm glad that Nancy Pelosi brought up a debate. I hope that that means that Joe Biden is open to debating Donald Trump. I think he's certainly going to try to skirt that as much as he wants to go on these hate-filled campaigns to talk about racism. I think that he will still spend the majority of his campaign in the basement. I hope to see him out there with Donald Trump. And let's talk about some of these policy positions. Let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about the open border and the fact that our cities are being flooded with illegal immigrants. I look forward to that. So I'm glad that Nancy Pelosi is teeing that up for the debate. And I hope that Joe Biden will follow through on that promise.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. Mollie and Tomi, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.